Hello, I'm Karen Parker, and I've been asked to talk about my favourite book, which is Wuthering Heights. I first read this book in year 11, and if you look inside the cover, you can see my name here, year 11. So I've had this book for quite a long time, and I've read it a number of times. The first time that I read it, I thought that Heathcliff, the main character, was a hot, unavailable, dark, swarthy man, and I was very fond of him. But the next time I read it, which was a number of years later, I had a lot more life experience by that stage, and I then thought that Heathcliff was just very mean and unavailable and cold. So I'm going to read it again during this lockdown and see what I think of him now. A few more years have gone past. So, what is the story about? It's basically about a family in the early part of the 19th century, particularly involves itself with two characters called Heathcliff, who is an orphan brought home by the father, and Catherine, who is his stepsister, and they form a very, very close bond that is quite destructive. In the end, Catherine does marry Heathcliff. Of course, that would be sort of semi-incestuous, but she marries the rich man from across the hill, and story continues about the intersection of their lives. It was written by Emily Bronte, who at the time had to pretend that she was a man in order to get it published. So it was first published in 1847 under the name Ellis Bell. So that is a male name. And it was the only books that she published because she died at the age of 30 of tuberculosis. And there were a number of sisters that she had who were also published authors. You may have heard of Jane Eyre by one of her other sisters. Interestingly, the critics did not like this book. It was, as Graham's Lady magazine said, how a human being could have attempted such a book as the present without committing suicide before he had finished a dozen chapters is a mystery. It is a compound of vulgar depravity and unnatural horrors. And this is probably one of the reasons why it appealed so much and has endured so long, because it isn't a delicate type of book. It is rather terrorising in many ways. Other reasons that I like it is I think it's narrated in a very interesting way. So we have a man called Lockwood who has been stuck at one of the houses in a snowstorm, and he then subsequently gets sick. So he narrates the first part, but it's as told to him by another character who lives in the house. So we have these whole layers of narration, which leads you to wonder, as you're reading it, what is the real story? Should I believe what they're saying? So it is called an unreliable narrator. Another thing literary element that I really like about the novel is the characterization. Even though the main two characters, Heathcliff and Catherine, are deeply flawed, we still maintain sympathy for them. And this is due to the excellent writing of Emily Bronte. Another reason that I particularly like the novel is the imagery of the Yorkshire Dales that appears throughout the novel. I've never been to Yorkshire, but I'd like to go. I've recently discovered that I have quite a lot of ancestry that comes from that region, and I wonder if there's perhaps some sort of ancestral memory at work in why it appeals to me so much. And I also came from a farming background in a very windswept, rainy place near the 12 Apostles. And the description of the rain and the cold really reminded me of where I was living. It is an example of Gothic fiction, and I particularly like Gothic fiction because it appeals to an inner darkness within us. It induces terror for us. You might like yourself horror movies, and this is the same type of thing. There's something really verboten or forbidden about exploring the dark side of our thinking and allowing our imaginations to run free within the safety of a novel, or maybe it's a film. Another reason I really love it is that my favourite author, who is alive, Margaret Atwood, really loves this book too. I recently went to see her talk at Hamer Hall, and I was very impressed that she liked Wuthering Heights, and some of her fiction has a Gothic element to it. Lastly, one of the reasons why I think it's a particularly great novel is that it is part of popular culture. Kate Bush has a song called Wuthering Heights, and it's all about this book, this novel. Also, recently, in the last few years, people have been dressing up for Wuthering Heights Day. So you can go on the 11th of July to Sydney this year, if it's on, and dress up in the costumes of Wuthering Heights and dance to the song. And there's also been numerous movies and miniseries made about Wuthering Heights. I don't think anyone ever perfectly captures how it is in my imagination. It's the old saying, the book is better than the film. I hope you feel inspired to have a go at reading Wuthering Heights. Please let me know if you want any help with it. I love it so much. I would just love to talk to anyone about it who wants to read it. Good luck.